What's up? What's up? Everybody awake? Are you awake? It's time to get up. Wake up, everybody. For those who are asleep, you'll probably be hearing this tomorrow. But it is a late night once again. For the Insomniac viewers, the Insomniac TV viewers, you're here with me once again because you can't sleep. Let's see, make sure I'm centered here. Da-da. What's happening? Watch. Mary, good to see you. Supernova. Finally around for the live stream. You finally caught a live stream. Amazing. How did that happen? It's just kind of lucky, I guess. Is there anybody out there that gets the alert from the coffee website? I'm kind of curious if that actually works. I've been sending alerts through the supporters and the followers because we got both supporters and followers, and I send it through an email update or an email. I guess it's kind of like an email. And I'm just wondering if anybody out there even gets it there, if it's worth me doing it or not. Anybody? Belinda, you can't sleep? Oh, Judy, how's it going? Hit Gal, Vape King. And, yep. You work overnight, so you usually listen after you start. Hey, Diana, how's it going? Good to see all you out there. So what's been going on? We're just kind of hanging out. I was kind of going to go through some news and tell you what I think about this stuff that I've been hearing lately. And it's not what I've been hearing. It's what I know. It's what I know in my gut. Like I feel like it's like the Lord in a certain way. You kind of get that intuition before something happens. And and I understand that a lot of people are feeling it, and it seems to be getting. Even though this government shutdown was, in a certain sense, I guess a good thing. I guess it averted chaos at this very moment, because now I don't know exactly when they implement that. I guess it's starting today or tomorrow. You were just going to bed? Well, who needs to sleep? Get yourself a cup of coffee. Stay up all hours of the night with me. No, you know what? I drink a cup of coffee and I can probably go to sleep. They say that people can do that. It's, do they have hyperactivity? I don't have hyperactivity, though. You can ask my wife. I'm very mellow, very calm. They say that people that drink coffee actually calm down when they, if they have hyperactivity or what is it, ADHD? Anybody know what this thing is? I'm just fiddling with this. This is my fiddle stick right here. Do you know what this is? Anybody? Kaboom. No, it's not. This is a clip. This is a clip for an implement. Like if you got a tractor and you got like a pin, you put it in the pin, and then it keeps everything together. I don't know why I'm playing with this thing, but coffee makes you tired? Then that must mean you've got ADHD there, Mary. That's a sign that you've got ADHD. ADHD TV. You watch things in ADHD TV. Let's see. 720p for you. Vape King. Is that the best I get? Is that the best I can do? Is 720p? Not 10, what is it, 1070? 1080? Not 1080? I wonder if I have it set at, I think it's at 1080. Maybe not. The end of the shutdown is before next shutdown. I know, it's like going to be another one real soon. From what I'm looking at and all the stuff that's happening around the world and here at home, it only looks like this is just an illusion of, we can work things out. Maybe Titanic won't sink. We haven't sunk yet, even though we hear a bunch of creaking and cracking. People are still pretty calm. There's music. Hear the music. People are rearranging the chairs on the deck out there. Actually, they're throwing the chairs overboard. Not yet. The chairs don't go overboard until the ship starts to list. and then when you start to see it like, whoa, this is not good, that's when you start throwing things overboard. Because you're going to need something to float on. You're going to have some kind of life. If you don't have a life raft, a vest is not going to help. It may keep you from sinking and dying right away, but not all that long. So you need a structure that you can get out of the elements, right? So when everything does fall apart, you have to have some kind of infrastructure. I would say it's kind of like being out of the way, getting out of the way, because people that are in big cities, I don't know how they're gonna fare when all this hits a fan. And and I'm talking about, I don't know if you saw the interview with General Flynn. Now, I don't agree. I personally think that they're completely deceived. People like Alex Jones and General Flynn. They are scratching their heads right now trying to figure out why Trump isn't actually trying to save America, because they see that things are getting worse, that people haven't been indicted or people haven't actually been brought to justice. There's no trust in the government, and things are going on as they seem to have gone on before, without any remedy, without any real accountability. And they're very, astute in that realm to know, because they're kind of feeling the heat still, and they're trying to figure out why. Why do we still feel this heat? Why do we still feel like we're on the brink of and the edge of destruction? Well, General Flynn made a statement tonight on the Alex Jones show where he said that he believes that there are, and this is his direct quote. This is his direct quote. He said that they are preparing to launch thousands of terror attacks designed to collapse the United States. And he kind of gave a scenario which I've already contemplated, these scenarios, attacks on infrastructure. And these are like soft target type attacks, but enough to actually cause an effect upon infrastructure and ultimately to bring about chaos. And these are all the illegals that have come across the border, right? There's been millions. And you know that governments, when they saw what was going on during Biden's administration, that they sent people, they probably flew people over into Mexico, sent them over in mass to cross into our borders undetected. They knew that it was an open sieve. And so this was all a preparation for the end of America. And in preparation, they were just setting everything up. And this is probably what's happening right now. We're in the end stages of that setup where they're getting ready to launch whatever they're going to do. And General Flynn and Alex Jones are criticizing Trump in a certain way. They're trying to give him advice, because what seems to be going on doesn't seem to be done with any kind of expertise, at least according to what General Flynn knows, right? He's a general. He oversaw large organizations. Has Kash Patel? No. Has Dan Bon Jovi or Dan Bongino? Dan Bon Jovi. Has Dan Bongino? No. Do they have experience doing this type of thing? No. Do they even understand what's really going on? No. Is Trump being advised correctly? I think he is, but they don't think he is, because I think that the advice that Trump is getting is directly from the powers that be, and he's his own man anyway. He's gonna run on the whole idea of chaos anyway. He's not allowing, when all this hits the fan, I think he's preparing. I think everybody is preparing and getting into their bunkers, just like you saw with the release of that information about people like Bondi and all them going to military bases, Stephen Miller. Why are they doing that? That's continuity of government. They're in preparation mode for the chaos that's about to rain down. I mean, are they even in D.C.? Are they even there? I mean, that might be the epicenter of a lot of what's coming, but I think it's going to happen all over. I don't think it's just going to be to one or two locations. And when he made, this is another statement General Flynn said, and I watched the whole interview. He said, it's going to make 9/11 look like a church fire. What did he say? A church a small church fire. I don't know why he said a church fire. I think it was a small church fire, he said. He's talking about what's going to be happening in many different places at probably in a coordinated kind of manner. And these are going to be, he said, teams, not only of groups like the Latin Kings and MS-13, but Islamic groups as well. And obviously there's gangs all throughout, organized gangs all throughout the country that are probably already preparing for this. And so if you're in a large city and you have a gang problem in your inner areas or inner cities, you're not safe. You're not safe anywhere in suburb areas or whatever, what have you. You're going to be encountering, when this all hits the fan, you can only imagine. I really don't think people realize what's really going on. And you know, with General Flynn, he's just scratching his head because he's been one of Trump's biggest supporters. He couldn't understand. They can't understand why Flynn wasn't tapped to do the job that maybe Bongino was or Kash Patel is doing, because obviously General Flynn is a general. He has experience in this whole realm. He's been one of the biggest supporters of Trump. So, you know, even though General Flynn is, in my estimation, someone that, spiritually speaking, is out of touch with God's divine plan. I mean, he's basically parroted the prayer of Elizabeth Clare Prophet, who was a total occultist after the order of, you know, the Golden Dawn. I don't know if you know who Elizabeth Clare Prophet was, but he actually verbatim quoted a prayer of hers at one of these Reawaken America tours, and all the Christians were just like, "Oh yes, praise the Lord." They were praying along with him, and he's sitting there channeling this spirit of Elizabeth Clare Prophet, which is amazing. That he is so spiritually unaware of what he's actually doing. Now, I don't think he's, you know, he's kind of on the, and I'm kind of curious as to why Trump wouldn't have him on, you know, his cabinet. But after reading some of the accounts of what happened right after 2020, or, you know, when they were approaching Trump to try to get him to defend the Constitution and the rule of law by forensically analyzing all of the voting machines and getting to the bottom of whatever corruption there was. Rudy Giuliani included was in that group. You know, you had the Kraken lady, and what was her name? I forgot her name. And then Bird, I think his name was, what the heck was his name? He was the guy that was the CEO at one point of that big online thing. What was his name? I have him on here. Let me see if I can find him here. Oh, Patrick Byrne. Patrick Byrne. So if you didn't know who Patrick Byrne is, he used to be a, I guess he was the founder and the creator of Overstock.com. And he was somehow tied into this whole thing, this corruption with Hillary Clinton. And supposedly he was in some kind of intelligence operation. Anyways, he was involved in this conversation with General Flynn and the Kraken lady. What the heck was her name? Let me see if I can find her on my Telegram here. Kraken. What the heck was her name? I forgot her name. The Kraken. Patrick Byrne, local, let's see, the Kraken. This was dated. Yeah. I don't know why my computer is blinking like this. This is very odd. Is it, I wonder if this is a Telegram thing. You know, it is Telegram. Telegram makes my computer blink when I have it open. That's weird. I wonder if it's a conflict between OBS, my OBS software, and yeah, when I open it up like this, I'm looking at Telegram. Yeah, it's blinking. Now it stopped. That's weird. Well, let me see if I can find her really quick. What was her name? Does anybody know who I'm talking about? The lady. Anyways, the account of Patrick Byrne, he wrote a book on this, was horrifying. When you really looked at the internal communications during that period of time when they were trying to get Trump to retake and to confront this power grab, because really that's what it was. If you really look at what was, and I don't think it was really a power grab. I think it was a planned illusion of a power grab. And I think the reason why Trump yielded to his advisors to step down to allow this to continue without having any kind of, investigation. He was president. He could have done that. He could have had everything. He could have forensically had everything looked at. What Trump is doing now is, I think he's in some way made some deals with the deep state, and they've allowed him to have his fun, to play around. But maybe if he truly is that personage that we talk about scripturally, that he has an edge that he gets in some way to kind of co-opt this plan, or at least to become one with the plan and to become that anointed closer, or the one that brings about the culmination of their plan. Like he becomes the anointed one, right? He's the one that is fully endued. I don't know. It's not. It's an imbue. I think it's called imbued. With their anointing. I think that's the way you say it, with the right word. Imbue means to, or endue. Endue. I thought it was imbue. It is imbue, to inspire or permeate. To inspire or permeate. So there is such a word as imbue. Or it's a misspelling of. Oh, I spelled it wrong. Okay, so it is imbue. It's E-N-B-U-E. I'm sorry. I-M-B-U-E. Or indue. Indue. So he's got this. I don't know if it's like he comes to a realization of his destiny, and he's been prepared for this destiny, and ultimately fits right into their plan. And this is a plan that's been going on for a long time. Okay, this is a spiritual thing too. It's not a human plan. This is, if it truly is the prophetic fulfillment of what we see going on in the world, Trump's fitting right into that. Now, I don't know if you saw today what happened, where he hosted the Syrian president, who was former ISIS, who was a former Al-Qaeda leader and a former ISIS leader, and had probably killed Americans. Trump says he's a tough guy because he comes from a tough area, but I like him. Really? I mean, a lot of people are criticizing Trump for having him in the White House because he was behind a lot of Americans being killed and tortured. That in and of itself is kind of odd. But then I saw a quote from him today, the Syrian president. People are blaming me for 9/11 because they were saying that about him. Like, why do you have someone that's, an Islamic jihadist in the White House, and you're hosting him and saying he's a great guy? Oh, because he's, maybe he's reformed. Maybe now he wants to make peace with Israel. Okay, so Trump's, I guess, either that or they want this guy there so that they can have an excuse, and I'm saying they, the Israelis. Maybe they want him there for the purpose and the reason. It's kind of like their own reason for going in to break things and to take over. Like, oh yeah, he's didn't change his spots. He's still a jihadist at heart, and he still wants to destroy Israel and look at the plans, and we're going to go in there and just take it over. So maybe that has something to do with it. I don't know. But this, on the eve of the restoration of the government funding, so now that the government's refunded, well, does that mean everything's all better? Well, I've understood that this could happen again very soon, right on the back end. If they don't fix things, they have to get together and they have to work out their issues, whatever that is, right? And I guess this is theater. Is this like theater for us? I mean, are we just, there's a reason why they put the populace in complete and utter fear, because they couldn't get their next meal. I mean, that was a big wake-up call. That's for sure. And maybe this is a prelude of things to come. And I think that may in fact be God's little wake-up call for a lot of people. Like, hey, this is potentially at your doorstep, so you better get yourself ready, because this could happen at any time on a larger scale that may not have anything to do with the government shutdown, but it could be from an all-out World War III breaking out, and even here on our own homeland. So you need to think about the reality of these types of things happening and how you would fare, and if you have prepared for these things in advance. Because once it does hit the fan, there's that scientist, that dude that's a rocket scientist that had the worm farm. Remember that guy? If you ever saw that guy's videos, I forgot his name. He was saying, and he made a quote. I thought it was a great quote. He said, "When everything stops, when everything comes to that moment, when everything does fall apart, day X, whatever you want to call it, the things that people prep for, the preppers' reasons for why they prep. Mad Max." He said, whatever you have is what you're going to have, and that's it. And what other people might need, barterable type of things that you have that are barterable. And that would be your currency, if that would be the currency. Now, I think this is a prelude to the flip. And maybe whatever's left of America at that point, if there is, or maybe it's a global thing, because these elites, they know things are coming before they happen, and they could just jet set out of here and they'll be safe, at least in a physical way for a short period of time, even if it meant, blowing up your own country. Because this is what the rabbis said. If you remember, they said Trump is a Messiah after the order of Cyrus, or like a Moses. Cyrus was not a Jew, but they said when Moses rose up from within his own empire, he destroyed it. And so they believe that they believe that Trump is like an Esau, which the Jews really look at Esau as being the elder brother who was much more powerful and much more influential and had a greater kingdom than Jacob, but eventually would reconcile with his brother. In the end times, they look at that as prophetic in their interpretation, and I'm talking about the rabbi's interpretation, that ultimately the nations that represent Esau, there would be a reuniting and how could I say it, a brotherhood would come back, where Esau would be, because the Jews have always, throughout the ages, have been persecuted by the nations, and they've been fearful, especially of Rome, and Rome has been the empire that was persecuting and had brought about the dysphoria for the last 2,000 years. And so they look at Rome as like an Esau. They call it Esau. But what happened is they also look at it as Trump being their Messiah, who is facilitating their reestablishment, ultimately the building of their third temple as the one that would ultimately destroy the infrastructure of the nations. And he would be the guy that would be the Jewish Messiah to bring about the power, as the Bible says, the restored Jewish empire of David that rules over the whole earth, right? But the nations would have to collapse, and that would be the Roman Empire. And they believe that Trump is that Messiah that would destroy, just like Moses did. He rose up from within the ranks of Egypt, ultimately to bring an end to it, and to be the deliverer and the Messiah of the Jews. And so there's kind of some weird parallels there if you're really up on what's happening with, Kushner, and supposedly that Trump, has these very tight connections to some of these very high-level Kabbalists in the Jewish faith, that there's some kind of deep connection there, and that there's, some, agreements maybe possibly, but maybe not so much with Netanyahu, because I don't think Trump really likes Netanyahu. But then again, it's ultimately about Trump in the end and how Trump can get to where he needs to go. So he makes deals, schmoozes, flatters, but ultimately, when it comes down to it, he's willing to pull the trigger on anybody, on anyone, because it's really all about Trump in the end. And you should know that. That's why I think General Flynn and Alex Jones are scratching their head like, why isn't he doing it? Why isn't he not taking, why are there no, this was another question they had, why are there not any arrests? Where are all the arrests? I mean, there's 3 indictments. There should be thousands of indictments. This is what they're saying. There should be thousands of indictments. But these 3 indictments are just a bunch of noise. It's nothing. Brennan and Comey, and supposedly there's rumblings of other. They're just putting that out as a little hopium. Like keep people on the line, keep them not rising up like Flynn. Now Flynn's starting to kind of get whiff. Hey, things are not happening the way they're supposed to, and this is taking way too long. This is another thing that Flynn said. This is taking way too long. This should have been already in the works. It should have been accomplished, and there should have been an exposure and a bringing about a trust through accountability and bringing justice, right? But that hasn't happened. So they're wondering, and like I said, the beast devours in, as I would say, betrayal, right? Because the beast allows the whore to ride him for a period of time, but at a certain point turns and devours this woman that's decked in gold and silver and it's called the whore in Revelation, and many would say that that's the political and a religious, ecumenical religious system, but I think it has a very strong conservative Christian kind of idolatrous Christian imagery. So it represents the idolatrous, ecumenical, watered-down, compromised church. But it's embracing the world. It's filled with worldly desires, and the world obviously is kind of... See, what really empowered Trump's rise into the place where he's at it was the conservative church. It's what really brought him into where he's at. If it wasn't for the church, and I say that as in all of its different, and I say that in quotes, the church, because I don't really believe that they're really hearing from God. They've gone astray, they've compromised, their light's been snuffed out, they're foolish virgins, if they are virgins, as the Bible would define them, and they're asleep, completely unaware of what's really happening spiritually. But they're so alive and awakened to the world's way, to the world's desires, that political desire to control, that whole 7 mountain mandate, kingdom now theology, That's all about worldliness, the prosperity gospel. And those lights are all being snuffed out. All of those church lights are being snuffed out. There's only 2 church lights in the book of Revelation, and I believe they represent the 2 witnesses. The 2 lights, the 2 churches out of the 7 that were commended by Christ, and I think that they're going to represent the 2 witnesses of the last days. Many scholars would say that they believe the 7 churches represent 7 ages or 7 types of Christian, representation of different Christian thinking and or practice, if you will. And but these end time believers are going to be definitely affecting even politics. They're going to be an influence upon politics as well. But they're not political. They're representing the kingdom of heaven as ambassadors to the kings of the earth. And ultimately, they confront the powers that be with the prophetic words of the Most High, and pay a price for a period of time. But they do have a resurrection, and it's a real miraculous resurrection, unlike the lying signs and wonders of the Antichrist. Because the Antichrist has a political resurrection as well. Remember, he comes back from a mortal head wound. You look deeper into that; it's a political, judicial head wound. It's not necessarily a physical head wound, like many prophetic teachers would teach. I don't think it's but it could be symbolic of this political comeback. See, I look at it like this. There's something that happens that literally brings back, when it says in the book of Genesis that the woman and the seed of the woman would crush the head of the serpent, it's talking about the power of the serpent. The head represents the wisdom, the understanding, all of that. Who you are is represented through your head, right? That's why it talks about the man as the head of the woman, and the head of man is Christ, right? He is our head. We are his body. So we are an extension of the thought processes of the Most High. Well, when you talk about the political head wound, you're talking about the powers of darkness that are manifest in a physical body, or the body of the devil. You could say it's the body of the devil. But it literally does a miracle of resurrection, or it's called a lying sign and a wonder. But there was a political rising from the dead. And this has to do, if you look into the original Greek, this head wound, this mortal head wound, was a judicial, political head wound. Now, what was interesting about the whole thing with the ear at Butler was that it resurrected him politically, and it cleared him judicially, because right after that, all of that stuff went away miraculously. And then he got all the endorsements right after that. That's when all the big tech people came back on board, and they dropped Kamala right after that. But I had told you guys all that was going to happen, and I held to it all the way because I knew. I was just waiting. I said, "This is the guy. This is going to happen. It's going to be right here. We're right up, going to get close to the primaries as we go into the election cycle. There, it's going to happen. He's going to rise from the political dead." And I told you guys all that would happen, all the way back from 2020. So, anyways, let me look at some of your guys' comments. Trump looks way different today. Well, he's gotten older, and I do think he has some kind of health problem, from what I've heard. And it does look like he's wearing something, too, that has something to do with... somebody was doing commentary on that, showed that it's a pack that has to do with some I don't know if it's a blood pressure thing. It's something serious. And you can tell by his hands, they're all bruised and his ankles are very swollen. He talked about a while back that he couldn't stand up too long because he said he's been on his feet all day long. And that, I think, was his statement because he was in such pain that he had to get off his feet. So he's got very swollen ankles. But how's it going, Ralph? The goat. The goat. I'm looking at some of your comments. How many of you guys saw the conversation I had with that guy last night? Somebody was telling me that he makes his rounds, so I looked it up, and it does sound like the guy. I think his name is he goes by Juan O'Savin, I think. You know who I was talking about? The guy that was calling in last night. Scarshala, you had made a statement in one of the text chats about that. Yeah, Jeff B. Well, you know what's weird is I always see his name in the chat, Jeff B. But I always think it's a friend of mine that he also comes in here quite often, but his handle is Jeff J. So anytime I see Jeff B, sometimes I think that it's Jeff J, and I forget until you reminded me, and I'm like, oh, you know what? That's right. I think that I've misidentified him in the past, thinking it was my friend, and thinking it. So somebody was telling me, oh, that's Jeff B, and I was like, Jeff B? No, that's a friend of mine. But then I realized, oh yeah, his handle is Jeff J. So you guys have seen Jeff J in the chat, right? But Jeff B has been in the chat quite often. I've seen Jeff B in here quite often. So that is Juan O'Savin, right? So he's made his rounds, and from what I understand, he's kind of like a Mike from Around the World a little bit. If anybody knows who Mike from Around the World is, and Jeff, if you're out there listening, Mike from Around the World, you probably know who he is, but I don't know. I think Mike from Around the World is more of a LARP. You know, I had the backstory on that whole thing with Mike from Around the World. I knew some people that were involved in his group, and I saw the origins of what started his internet intel career, his secret agent man. I used to call him the secret agent man. I saw some things that a lot of questions about who he really is. I think he's more of a LARP, if you ask me. And if you don't know what a LARP is, it's a live action role player or a non-person character. No, I'm not. I don't think it's necessarily a non-person character, but a LARP, a live action role player, which really is just like, you know, you're playing a role because you've got enough education, enough understanding about a certain topic, and you basically pretend like you're that person, or you pretend like you know things because you studied it, and you put yourself as if it's you. Your identity is enmeshed with this role-playing game that you're doing. So if you don't know who Mike from Around the World is, I would say Mike from Around the World is a LARP. But this guy, he sounded, he was very quick on his answers. But, a person that's very well read and very well studied, they can make it, people are an amazing, the way that their talents and their gifts and the things that they can do are quite fascinating, to see. I don't know if you ever saw that movie, and I'm not saying that's what Jeff is doing, but if you've ever seen that movie, Catch Me If You Can, I think it was with Leonardo DiCaprio, and it was based on a true story of a guy who pretended to be a doctor. He pretended to be a airline pilot, a big commercial airline pilot. He pretended to be a professor at a university, a surgeon at a hospital. And how did he get away with it? how did he get away with it? And he went through all of the different things that he would do in order to mimic these professions to be able to benefit. And he would fly all over the country, and he was embezzling all kinds of money, and he was writing fake checks. Has anybody ever saw that? That's a LARP. That's a lot. That's somebody that's embedded himself in the actual lingo, what you would call the jargon of his specific targeted, field of interest that he just learned so that he could fit in and kind of go into the radar where people would just think that he's a doctor. And he just had the right clothes. He made his own little badges, and he made his own IDs and everything. And he was able to just get away with it for a long time. It's a true story. It was not a true story. What do you mean it wasn't? It was a true story. It was based on a true story, from what I understand. Are you saying it wasn't true? Helmet. So where did you get that from? Let me look. I'll show you. I'm pretty sure, because I've even saw interviews with the actual guy that was the story was made after. So I think I remember you say someone saying that. Yeah, here it is. It was Steven Spielberg who produced this. Tom Hanks and Leonardo DiCaprio. So Tom Hanks was the guy that was trying to chase him down. So it says film direct. It was an American crime comedy drama film directed by and produced by Steven Spielberg and starring DiCaprio and Hanks with Christopher Walken and Martin Sheen. And then it goes on to say that autobiographical book by Frank Abagnale Jr. So supposedly this guy, Frank Abagnale Jr., is the guy who, and he went to prison for some of his crimes that he ended up getting caught for. But it says that he's an American-French security consultant, author, and convicted felon who committed frauds that mainly targeted individuals and small businesses. He later gained notoriety in the late 70s by claiming a diverse range of workplace frauds. It says many of which have since been placed in doubt. Oh, so some people say that there was a doubt placed on a lot of this. Could this famous con man be lying about his story? A new book suggests he is. Now, I had heard about that later on. But then again, I mean, if he was able to pull this off and get a movie written about himself, maybe he did have some cons. Maybe he was conning people because, they made a movie about him. But the veracity of most of Abigail's claims has been questioned, and ongoing inquiries continue to confirm that they were fabricated. What? Really? In 2002, Abignale admitted on his website that some facts had been over-dramatized or exaggerated. Well, that sounds like Trump. Doesn't Trump say in his book, Art of the Deal, that it's important to exaggerate and to use hyperbole to excite the listener so that they can believe in something? It's called hopium. Yeah. So maybe he's just doing a Trump. Trump's talking up everything like it's the golden age, right? Everything is, our economy is roaring. Your high gas, your high prices and everything besides gas. I guess gas is going back up too. Isn't what you think. If that's just synergy, that's just everything is just gelling. It might seem like it's on fire and hot and burning down the house, but it's only just getting good. That just means it's getting good. When you start to see smoke and fire, it doesn't mean that the whole house is burning down. It just means that synergy is happening. That totally reminds me of that video that I played a while back about Iran and Iraq. What was it? I can't play it though because it's copyrighted. talking about how I think it was In Living Color. You know that kind of like SNL, but it's called In Living Color. And they were doing this skit where they were showing how they had all these eye products. They had the iPhone, they had the iPad, they had the iComputer, and then they went into other stupid things like the eye microwave and the eye vacuum cleaner. And they said they had a new product called the iRack, and it was a rack. It was all unstable. This was about the time when we went into Iraq, the first war. And they were talking about how this iRack is unstable, and they're putting all kinds of eye products into the iRack. And the iRack looks, and they had all the journalists there saying, the iRack looks unstable. The iRack doesn't look like it likes what you're doing. And the whole rack was just, well, we're going to throw a bunch of money at it too. And then it starts to smoke, and they're like, the iRack is on fire. The iRack is on fire. We all got to get out. And he's like, there is no exit strategy. You cannot leave. But wait, I've got a new product. It's called, and then he shows a tennis shoe with looks like a Nike shoe, with a little Nike stripe on it. And he says, I got to show you my new product. And he takes it out. This is the Iran. So we're going into Iran now. Oh, yeah, that's what Wesley Clark said. We got 7 countries we need to overthrow right after 9/11, and looks like we're doing that pretty much to exactly what they had planned. And Trump is all a part of that. See, Trump is fulfilling the agenda of what they said would ultimately take place, that we would overthrow all these countries, Libya, Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria. Syria was one of them, Lebanon, and then it was Iran. And there was one other one in there. I think it was Sudan. I think Sudan was one of them, if I'm not mistaken. But you guys saw that conversation with Wesley Clark, right? That's pretty crazy. You laugh half the time about what Mike says, Molly. Tell me that he's not some Fruit Loop just like Paul Begley. I mean, Paul Begley. Come on. I have such intimate insights into that whole, and I will call it a scheme. And he played it very well. I'm just saying, Paul Begley did play a lot of people pretty well, along with Mike. If it wasn't for his sidekick, Mike from Around the World, they wouldn't have pulled this. Paul Begley would have never pulled any of this off if it wasn't for Mike from Around the World. Mike from Around the World is Paul Begley's, it is the essence of what Paul Begley is. Paul is Mike from Around the World. And Paul Begley's Mensa wife. She's so smart. She's a Mensa. She's very pretty, very, very intelligent, high above all others. She's got this brilliant mind, organizationally, and all the advice I'm sure that Paul Begley gets is either from his wife or Mike from Around the World. His bread and butter, yeah. Yeah, Mike from Around the World is his bread and butter. I'm sure he gives Mike from Around the World a nice cut for all that he does. Are you serious? Seriously? Seriously? Are you serious? Now, I haven't watched Begley in a long time. For all I know, he's repented, and he's gotten his life right, and he's giving all that money to the poor now and not buying houses and cars and everything else in between. But he is ministering to all those old people in Florida. What was the name of that? The villages. He's in the villages ministering to all the boomers that are getting ready to leave their 401ks to his ministry. Don't forget, when you croak, you got to give your money to the kingdom. And you know what the kingdom is, don't you? It's my ministry. I don't have a problem with funding ministry work, but when it's going into all of your projects or your you know, I just think that there's got to be a lot more ethics. We all have to be under some kind of board or some kind of accountability, especially when you have that type of money coming in. Now, I don't have to worry about that because I don't make any money. Seriously, hardly anything, just barely paying the bills. I'm not making millions of dollars a year where I would have to give some account. Just barely paying my bills. In fact, we're not even paying some of our bills because we're not making enough. But I don't. It's not that I don't trust that God will do it, but at the same time, I at this point, if ever there were to be a new lease on America and there was some kind of extension God has granted us, and we were to have a little more time, and the economy would spring back, and there would be some kind of miracle of miracles, which I don't think is going to happen, personally. Now, some people would say, "Do you really believe that? Do you really believe we're at the end?" I really do. I really do. And it may seem like a little bit of pessimism. I heard somebody say something about this phrase. Maybe not pessimistic, and not an optimist, but more of a realist. I guess that's a better way of saying it. Realistically looking at what's happening. And, you have a progression of events, and you kind of make that turn. At a certain point, there's what they call the point of no return. And I think we've already crossed that threshold. I don't think there's a point of no return. Now, can they manage the chaos that's to come and have order that comes out of chaos? Well, yeah, but it's going to be a terrible chaos. I don't think you understand what chaos means. I mean, if you go back to the Deagle report, maybe that's what they mean, chaos. And what did the Deagle report say? There would only be 70 million people left in the United States after 2025. And if you don't know what the Deagle report is, you need to go do a little research on that. I won't go into all the details of that, but Patty, I caught the live. God bless. Thank you. God bless you too, Patty. What are you doing up so late? Hey, it's funny. We got all the we're getting a lot of new subscribers, or I would say, subscribers, but members of BP News. So that's good. We need to get a lot more members. So let's keep growing the membership. But we do like the subscribers coming on board too. We want to get more and more people coming to this, subscribing to our channel and growing it. And that will help. Whether you're a patron or whether you're a member of YouTube, I kind of like it a little decentralized, because if anything happens to YouTube, which has happened in the past where we've been censored, then it's like everything goes down and that's your only means of support, and then it's over. I feel like we're kind of teetering on the edge anyway with everything that's coming down the pike with all this technology and censorship. And I think it's only a very short matter of time, and it's very short, that all this is going to come to a head. And when that happens, I mean, I don't know what's going to go on, how that's going to work after that. That's why I've kind of thought about trying to develop some kind of website-based live streaming capabilities to kind of make sure everybody knows where to find us. Okay, so let's see. One of my kids is needing me to tuck her in. She's having a little. Hold on a minute. Okay. All right. Well, my little girl needs a little tuck in. What time is it? It's 11? Oh, gosh. Why is she not in bed? YouTube has been pausing on me today. Yeah. I don't know. I was having some weird glitches just now with my computer, like flashing white. And I thought it was something to do with OBS. So anyways, really quick, let me just see if I go through some of the news updates here. Let me just go really quickly here. I'll just read through some of them. She insists on waiting on me. Hold on. Everybody else is in bed. Okay. So my little girl needs me, so I'm going to go. All right, guys. God bless. It's late here. It's 11 o'clock. One of my little ones is waiting for me, wants me to tuck her in. She's probably not being able to sleep. So I'll be back, or I'll be back tomorrow. So there was some, just general updates. We can go through some of that tomorrow. I'm sure there's going to be a big news cycle here real soon. You don't want that news cycle. You just pray that you keep pushing that can down kicking it down the road. We don't want that to happen, but I have a feeling it's getting closer. The Ark door has been shut. So real quick before I go. So the Ark, people were asking me about this date of the Ark. So I looked it up. It was November 8th, Israel date. So it would be October 7th, our time. I'm sorry, November. When did I say October? November 8th, November 7th here. And that would have been, according to the second month, the 17th day, the month of Sheshvan, I guess they call it. And that was the day that the Ark door was shut. Or, I'm sorry. Yeah, that was the day that the Ark door was shut. So, just so you know, when the water comes, okay, this has already happened according to the timeline of history. And I would say, prophetically speaking, it could very well be. I saw some weird parallels when that date came. And I have kind of a sneaky suspicion that we're about to see things it's going to escalate from here on out. So you're going to see more escalations, even though it may seem like things kind of calm down with the reopening of the government. I think you're going to see other cracks that are going to start letting in a lot of water, because it's going to start coming up. The water's going to start rising. You're going to start seeing it, and it's going to be more and more from here on out. So just be ready, and don't have any false illusions of peace and prosperity, because Trump just keeps talking positive. Just please be vigilant and aware of what's going on. In the meantime, I will be talking back with you guys tomorrow. God bless. Love you all in Jesus' name. And we'll try to be back on the other ministries channel tomorrow. I know I've been